Hello and welcome to another weekend of the Punters Guide, and what a special occasion it is. Some fantastic racing at Newmarket to look forward to this weekend. And of course, we've got the Ryder Cup. We've got a man who loves his golf as well, alongside us, Jason Weaver, as always. We'll talk about that a little later on, Jason. But when we look at the racing today, you see things like the Royal Lodge Stakes. Now, I know the fixture list is very different nowadays, but a quarter of a century ago, 25 years ago this weekend, on Tuesday to the day, was when Frankie Dettori landed his magnificent 7. And you were one of the very first to congratulate him as he crossed the post on Fujiyama Crest, I remember.
Yeah, it always amazes me. You know, he'd gone through the card and it built throughout the afternoon. And then when we go out for the last, you know, Fujiyama, I think he was about a 12 or 14 shot, wasn't he? Anyway, when we cantered down to post, and the start was right in front of the stands, so we could see some of the bookies board from there, and he was punted into favouritism, and we were sort of, you know, it's a little bit of a joke. We were laughing about the fact that he was so short, and I think even people said afterwards something crazy like, "Oh, Pat Edery let him win," or something like that. Trust me, Edery had gone for home. He was yahooing one of his up the straight at Ascot, and Dettori just wore him down. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's amazing. You know, seven winners on a card, 7 winners on a Royal Ascot card. Phenomenal.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, what was the atmosphere like throughout the afternoon? I mean, was it building to crescendo? Were you thinking after, you know, 3, 4? Was there any thought that he could do it, or was it just a case of going down to the post for the last saying history's on?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, riding 6 anyway, you know, was unbelievable. I don't think anybody really thought that 7 was possible. It had obviously, you know what he's like. He comes back in, he's had a winner, he's shouting, "Come on me," every time he comes back into the old weighing room at Ascot. I think Ray Cochrane, who used to sit next to him, wrote above his peg then, Frankie Dettori, magnificent 7. So it reminded us every time that we went back to the old weighing room at Ascot. And then there was sort of Ray Cochrane, Pat Edery across the way, Willie Carson, and he'd written across a couple of our pegs, if you like. Mere mortal jockeys also work here, you know, but Dettori with his, it was just, I mean, it was just crazy. And obviously that next day, he said it was that Notting Hill moment, you know, when he went down and opened his front door to get the papers sort of thing. And everybody was there, you know, taking pictures of him. He was like, oh, something's happened. And yeah, 25 years. Oh, my word.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably sick of seeing the backside of him on that occasion, that afternoon. I mean, there was never anything in the weighing room with, like, thinking of team tactics or to try and box him in to get it, to stop him from doing it. I guess everyone was willing him on.
Yeah, look, it's Royal Ascot. You know, even if it's anywhere, you know, the boys are going out there to go and win. And he, you know, he had some luck, didn't he? I think halfway through the afternoon there was 1 or 2 that got shut in a little bit. He made all on something up the stand side rail in one of the sprints where 1 or 2 had traffic problems in behind. But he was brilliant on the front, and it showed all of his ability in the saddle. We are hanging on dearly to him racing, because he carries it, or has carried it, on his back for a very long time. So yeah, that was just well, that was the magical moment, if you like, but there's been plenty after.
Yeah, and there certainly has. And you know what? There could be plenty this weekend as well. I mean, he had a great weekend last weekend over stateside. He's got some big rides on the card at Newmarket this weekend. So let's get stuck in to the action then. We start with the Royal Lodge at 150, Jason. 7 juveniles going to post. Frankie's on Unconquerable here. Masakila probably brings the best form into the race, though, because he beat the Champagne Stakes winner last time out at Newbury.
Yeah, he that Masakela form, isn't it? I mean, he got absolutely chinned by Native Trial. He then goes and beats Bay Bridge. You know, we know what Native Trial has gone on to go and do afterwards over in Ireland. So yeah, you got the Doncaster winner, you know, who lowered the colours of Reach for the Moon. It all ties in, doesn't it? The Tudor form. We Native Trial, we're putting him up as the absolute best at the moment, but I think there's about £5 covering them all. Caribus up the top is out of a half sister to Thunder Snow. So from a family that the team know particularly well. Look, it's easy to go for Masekela, but I think that royal patronage is probably being overlooked. He made all in the Acomb. That form is not as strong, don't get me wrong. But I suppose you've got Noble Truth came out and won the Flying Scotsman. You've got a few horses in there who are Dewhurst entries and the likes of, and he might just get away on the front end again. You know, the track is quick, no rain, little bit of water in to maintain it. I think he'd be popping along up on the front end. He might be tough to catch.
Yeah, I was alluding to that, and in a piece that I was writing as well. I mean, it's becoming more and more front runners track when the going's decent, Newmarket, and especially if they bag a rail.
Yeah, and look, what happens is when the ground gets quick, and it very rarely gets really quick now on any of the big meetings. But if you think back, and it's only just gone, Doncaster, good horses on quick ground. I know towards the tail end of Friday, Saturday, we had that with big change. But the early part of that Doncaster meeting, good horses racing on quick ground, they just don't come back. You know, we saw it at Haydock. What a massive bias that track was under quick conditions. Newmarket is no different. Admittedly, it rolls away from you, but good horses just don't come back. And the jockeys have to adapt very quickly.
Yeah, they certainly do. Let's move on to the fillies then, because we've got the Cheveley Park, the first of two Group 1s on the card at a Newmarket this weekend. And we've got the Lowther form being tested. Zane Claudette took the unbeaten record of Sandrine there. But a lot of people are excited to see this Sacred Bridge send over from Jay Lyons.
Yeah, I mean, she's coming over with a big reputation. She beat the only sort of form line we can really tie in with her. She beat when she won at Nace, the big sales race. She beat Ever Given of Dascombe's, who has obviously gone and won at York. He went to Doncaster. He was punted off the boards, but he's like he's a mid-90s rating. So she comes in 111 at the moment. She's the pick of the bunch. Sandrine, was she unlucky to lose that unbeaten record behind Zane Claudette and the Lowther? I'm sure they'll be thinking that they can turn that back around. She goes on any ground whatsoever. Ray Dawson, massive ride for him. First one over here up in with the big boys. So it's easy to go. Like I think Sandrine will probably come out on top of boardings. She tried to come from too far back, and she'll be ridden a little bit differently, I would imagine, as far as this is concerned. But you can't force them early. And there's one filly in here who's been completely overlooked. And I hope, because they thought early on that Eve Lodge needed soft ground, but she came with a big ticket. She won really nicely at Lingfield, went to Royal Ascot, didn't happen. She's come back better. The two horses that she managed to beat when she won the Cyrenia have come out after and are rated 109 and 108. So that form for me is absolutely rock solid. What did they come out with? They won the Mill Reef. That form has given it a massive boost.
There we are.
She's an each way player. You know, I think Sandrine will probably win, but when I look at the prices and I think Eve Lodge, hold on a minute, how can she be, 14, 16 to 1? It's the wrong price for me.
Yeah, Jamie Spencer special potentially in the Cheveley Park. We move on to the Colts then for the Middle Park. A lot of these have been bumping heads against each other, haven't they, throughout the big festival this season. It was Perfect Power who came on top, Bill. Quite impressed with, I thought, in the pre-morning last time.
Yeah, that's an interesting one as well, isn't it? You've got Paul Hannigan who won on him in the Norfolk. He then gets beat on him in a real messy Richmond where they all sprinted for home, didn't they? And and what happens? Soumillon gets on board over in France. He wins. He keeps the ride. Is that something that we'll be looking at further down the line as far as Richard Fahey is concerned? Armour, his demolition job in the Malcolm was unbelievable, wasn't it? And he got blindsided in the Flying Childers. That's that other piece of form, the Flying Childers, that ties into the filly that we were talking about, Eve Lodge. And then Twilight Jet's been running in everything. I think, if I'm being honest, Asymmetric, we haven't quite seen the best of him. I know he was behind Perfect Power, but Soumillon was on his own patch on a track that he knows how to ride particularly well. Not that he doesn't ride Newmarket well, but he just knew they were going too quick, and he sat last. He was last to challenge. He was one of those that, it was an absolutely brilliant ride. those tactics will be much more difficult to do down to 6 furlongs on the Rolly Mile. So asymmetric, I just don't think, as with all the 2-year-old division, I don't think we've seen the absolute best of him. And then, Go Bears Go is going to have his followers, but he bombed a little bit when he went back over to Ireland.
Yeah, asymmetric were a favourite, of course, for that race over in France. So Alan King's charge to bounce back. Right now, the big one then, it is the Cambridgeshire. You can have a couple of darts of this if you like. The annual Punters Puzzle, 35 runners stretched across the Rolling Mile for this cavalry charge. Plenty of these come under a penalty for recent wins. Chichester, the best of them. He's £9 well in, and Matt, a couple of pound well in as well. Lots of eyes on Uncle Bryn, though. Got the right profile for John Gosden, but he's a couple of pound wrong under his penalty.
Yeah, I mean, he's looking through all these. It's easy to go Dettori's picked Magical Morning, Uncle Bryn, Astro King. All these sort of horses will be strongly supported. I know that Royal Marine has been put up in a few quarters, but I remember him trying to give Ilarab £15 at Newbury. That was when Ilarab was rated 90. He's now rated 108. That was a fantastic performance. So I think that Royal Marine is going to be overlooked. Big opportunity for Pat Cosgrave and Saeed bin Sarur. And if you tell me if I'm completely wrong, he's 100 to 1, Matt, right? 100 to 1. Trey Fleur used to be a good horse when he was trained in France and then Ireland, and he's now with Mick Shannon. He wants quick ground, so touch wood, no rain. I thought he would get away with soft ground earlier in the year, but it hasn't really worked that way. He's 3 lengths behind the likes of Magical Morning, Astro King, and though they are 8, 9, 10 to 1, something like that. He's 100 to 1. He goes on to quicker ground, which he's going to like. He steps up a furlong, which quite clearly is going to suit because he's been outpaced woefully in a decent mile contest at York on the Davesmire. And he's 100 to 1. I cannot believe the price of him. When he's that close to some of the principals in the race and given an extra furlong and a bit more luck in running, he would finish where they are. So they're at 8, 9 to 1 and he's 100. Makes no sense. So Trey Fleur each way, Royal Marine.
Yeah, and also the draw as well, drawing in 31. I mean, the evidence this week suggests the stand side could be the place to be. So another tick in the box.
Yeah, listen, and how messy has it been so far with jockeys deciding where they're going to go or where they're not going to go? Such a wide open expanse, isn't it? When you've got small fields, make the decision for the riders, stick the stalls on the fence, whether it's one side or the other. Don't just put them in the middle in small fields because then they just scatter everywhere. And it's no good for anybody. With obviously the massive field like that, you can put them in the centre because you are one side to the other and they may end up in 3 sort of packs. Yeah. But stand side was definitely the place to be.
Right, let's move up to Merseyside quickly. There's a couple of races in front of the ITV4 cameras on this Saturday at Haydock as well. A mile handicap, just the 7 go to post. Not seen Nugget for quite a while. He had some good fun back in the spring. Got this Cruyff turn who actually beat Magical Morning and Astro King at York. He'd be a viable candidate for the Cambridgeshire.
Yeah, it's interesting that they've sort of maybe they feel he's just that speedy. That Newmarket wouldn't play to his strengths, and this maybe will. He certainly was very, very good when he won at York. I don't imagine he's going to get it all his own way. We've got Adam Farrager down the bottom, who's having a real good run at the moment. A couple of decent wins for his boss, William Haggis, recently, so he gets on board Noble Dynasty. But with the first horse you mentioned, has to be of interest, doesn't he? Nugget. We know he goes well fresh. His form early on at Newbury is absolutely rock solid. Something has kept him away from the track. You haven't seen him for 147. Hannon normally likes to get them out and keep them fairly busy. So Nugget, definitely a big player. He could actually be the class of the field, couldn't he? I feel he's just got that pinch of quality about him. Keep a close eye on Afak if he's booked or if he's punted at all in the market. But Nugget, I think, for me.
Well, the Nugget in that one. And then plenty of sprinters tackle the 240 horses. We've fallen over a cliff. I see Mondam edges back at a place is one. And one that I've been banging on about, Raw Crusade. I mean, with Adam Farrager's claim, this guy was 3 lengths beaten in a Group 1 back in the spring in Maidan. And here he is now in a handicap with the jockey's claim a mark of 98. Dropped down to the minimum trip for the first time. Do I go in again?
Good luck. There are a few of them here that we've hung onto the tail off and followed them down over that cliff, haven't we? Mondam Edge, he's going to pop up when you least expect it. Copper Knight's going to zip along up on the front end. He's going to make them all go. Jawal was in brilliant form. His jockey couldn't be any hotter. And Royal Crusade. Remember, I put up Premier Power when he ran in the Portland. And he, just have a look back at that video, he was travelling as good as anything approaching the furlong mark. A furlong and a half down, I was thinking, aye, he'll go and win here. That's the first time he sort of raced properly. Very, very weak finish, don't get me wrong. But he's much better than where he sits at the moment on a mark of 95. Look, provided the ground stays fast, it's a real quick, slick 5 furlongs. Copper Knight will go from 7. Hopefully he can get on his tail from 4 and just get towed into it. He might win without knowing he's had a bit of a race. So I'm going to give Premier Power. He's not quite over the cliff, but he's walking up to the edge.
He's dropped a couple of pounds. Well, noticed from that Portland as well. Been given another chance by the handicap. Right, we looked at the 6 ITV races. What would be the idea of the best bet this weekend?
I think that, look, I think Asymmetric is one of the best juveniles that I've seen. Both runs, when he was beaten by Lusail at Newmarket, he was unlucky, he should have won. Then he went and won at Goodwood when it turned into a sprint. And I think he was basically outmaneuvered when he went over to France. So I think Asymmetric is pretty strong for Alan King. We know how good he is with the jumpers. I have helped myself to a little bit of 100s with Trey Fleur in the Cambridgeshire. Drawn on the right part of the track. Just thought he was the wrong price.
Yeah, we've got history for these big pricing handicaps as well. Now, when you're not in front of the cameras for ITV or Sky, I know you like to be partaking on the golf course. And of course, it is the best week in golf this week, isn't it? The Ryder Cup to look forward to. America for you, though? I mean, is it hard overhead?
Oh, my word. I mean, look, you're not going to get rich backing the Americans to win. And I suppose when I was watching them warming up, and walking, and when you watch them singularly playing, you think, oh, well, whoever we go with, we're going to get beat there. They might do okay there. And then the 4 balls have come out, and or the foursomes. And I don't know, when you look down them, Dustin Johnson and Colin Morikawa. I mean, who do you put in? Who do you put in against them? I don't envy Paul Casey and Victor Hovland at all going into that. I think that Rambo and Garcia will definitely give the Americans a run for their money for that first point. But Thomas and Spieth, if Spieth gets the flat stick working, and it's the length and dominance, isn't it, of a Brooks and a Bryson and all those boys and everything. Look, we've grown up playing team sports, so it means that little bit more to us than it does the Americans. They may have played football or American football when they were growing up, or baseball or whatever. So they still have that some team ethic about them, but it's ingrained in us, isn't it? So that makes it makes you feel that we have a better chance because it means more, but they're better.
They are better. We are top price at Europe until that first tee ball was struck. And it does look like it could be the American dominance coming to the fore this weekend. Fingers crossed it isn't, though, but they certainly have the better players in the world rankings. So thanks, Jason, for joining us then. Asymmetric and a big price Trey Fleur in the Cambridgeshire couple to look forward to in front of the ITV cameras this weekend. 25 years on for Frankie Dettori's incredible, magnificent 7. Whatever you're back in this weekend, though, the very best of luck.